What is going on, everybody? It's Brendan Abbott coming to you with the KBR Sports Podcast. You already know, the best sports podcast of your 24-hour day. I am appreciative of everybody tuning into the KBR Sports Podcast, for joining me for this episode of the podcast, and wanted to make sure I was just getting on and following up with everybody here. I wanted to make sure that I was keeping you up to date on everything going on in regards to what the sports climate is. Obviously, there's a lot of things to talk about, from Robert Kraft to the NBA and so on. And I do want to address all those things, but I want to have a lot more time to talk about each individual thing. So for today's podcast, I do want to just focus in on the Lakers, because they most recently just lost to the Memphis Grizzlies after losing to the New Orleans Pelicans without Anthony Davis. So I want to address this from the get-go, because the Lakers, and before I say this, make sure you guys right now go ahead and click that subscribe button, show your support for the KBR Sports Podcast so you won't miss a beat. Make sure you click that subscribe button so you always get notified when a new episode is posted of the KBR Sports Podcast. Appreciate you guys, much love, and whatever podcast platform you're listening on, whether it be YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Rabble, make sure you go ahead and click the subscribe or follow button, and that's always appreciated, y'all. But I do want to get into this Lakers team, because at this point you're starting to get really concerned about the Lakers, who have lost at least the last 3 out of their 4 games, and they've lost to teams like the Hawks, the Pelicans, and the Grizzlies, like I noted before. And these losses, and a lot of scenarios you're watching them, you're seeing that they are against teams, when they are losing, they're losing against teams that have nothing to play for. The Hawks are not going to make the playoffs. The Hawks have a better incentive to just not make the playoffs in general and try and get a better draft pick. And same thing applies to the Memphis Grizzlies, and the same things apply to the New Orleans Pelicans. With Anthony Davis now being on the trading block, your best incentive is to try and tank and get a better draft pick to try and supplement your team and make a better team for next year. And now the Lakers have lost to teams such like this for 3 out of the last 4 games back to back when it comes to the Grizzlies and the Pelicans. And after the Pelicans loss, you hear LeBron James essentially criticize his teammates, in which LeBron, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but LeBron says, "Is basketball the most important thing to you?" And he's saying that guys don't know what's at stake when they've never been there, that they don't know what it takes in terms of how he has his playoff mode activated, and how these guys, they don't know in terms of turning the switch on and really valuing these games now after the All-Star break differently than obviously you value the first 20 games. And he was saying that this is one of those things that young guys who don't have that experience, because when he's saying these things, I mean, obviously he's talking about the young guys on the team, because everybody else has been to the playoffs, and even some of those guys have won championships. But when you hear LeBron say things like that, then it makes you sit back and wonder, because I watch almost every Laker basketball game. I know not everybody does so, but I do. And from when I watch Laker basketball games, if you watch LeBron James very closely, this point on defense sometimes, especially help side defense, he is just non-existent. The guy doesn't even give an effort. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't expect LeBron to be a lockdown defender to the likes of a Paul George or Kawhi Leonard or that, whatever the case may be, because he's an older guy. But there is just something to be said for just making an effort, because defense is an effort. It's just effort. That's what it is. Defense is a whole effort stat. Lonzo Ball affects the Lakers defense because he puts in the effort to go and guard the opposing point guard 90 plus feet and make it more difficult for them to bring the ball up the court. And he exudes that energy on that end of the court. But Lonzo is also his early 20s, so he's able to have that energy and to do that. And he's not as dominant on the ball. But when it comes to LeBron, I'm not expecting LeBron to be Paul George or those guys. But dude, show effort. So act like you care. There's times I watch LeBron James on defense, and it's deplorable. It's so bad. I don't even understand what I'm watching at the time. I literally watched LeBron today with the ball, without the basketball. He's sitting there just looking at the play. His man is wandering, cutting behind him, and what have you. And LeBron, when they set a screen, LeBron goes completely under the screen, doesn't even guard the shooter, leaves the guy wide open, and the guy just drills the three. In crunch time against the Grizzlies, LeBron leaves a guy wide open for three. That's his rotation. Close out, make the guy rush his shot, affect him somehow. I know it's the pros, but running out and affecting a guy makes every little bit of difference. And LeBron just watches the guy shoot. Literally just watches him shoot. And so when you see that happen, I can't help but be critical of you, because that's just bad. That's just bad effort and bad will to want to win. You can't say playoff mode activated and then still be putting up the same offensive numbers and then still be playing the same defense. When LeBron's telling me playoff mode activated, that means you're valuing every single possession. You're going to be way more aggressive in terms of imposing your will on the game. And when it comes to imposing your will on the game, that goes for offense and defense, not just offense. Because I feel like there's so many times, like LeBron, I mean, he did post a triple-double tonight. He had 24 points, 11 assists, 12 rebounds. And I commend him for the ability to put up those numbers. But at the same time, if you're putting up all these offensive stats, but you're not making the plays to help your team out defensively, you're going to give up points in critical moments of a game where they matter. Or if you ask LeBron, probably points that are scored in the first quarter matter the same as the points that scored in the fourth quarter. They all count the same. It's just that one happens in crunch time, one happens when it's just a regular flow of the game. And you see, there's times when LeBron, I even saw there was times where Joakim Noah just gets the ball, comes down, makes an easy dunk, and I'm just like, LeBron, if you rotate in front of him, you're going to either draw a charge, force him to go up for a layup instead, or can meet him at the rim. But it's just like he just gives up the two and says, hey, man, you go ahead and you got that. And it's kind of disappointing because the Lakers, you end up losing 115 to 110, and you think about all that wide open three. What if LeBron would have ran out there and affected it? Maybe that three doesn't happen at that time of the game. That two that Joakim Noah gave up to Joakim Noah, maybe that doesn't happen, and then what do you know? Maybe the score of the game ends up a little differently. But I will say though, that loss to the Grizzlies, in regards to that, there were so many missed calls by the refs in that game that I was really flabbergasted by it, because of the fact that there was an 8-second call late in the fourth quarter that the Lakers got on the Grizzlies when they were trapping them in the backcourt, and you see the clock even get down to 15 and the refs do not blow the whistle for the 8-second violation. And I'm like, did they just get caught up in the whole mayhem of the Lakers trapping? Because the Lakers did what they were supposed to do in order to get the ball back, and at that point in time it was a one possession game. And so when you miss a call like that as a referee, that's a huge effect on the game. And they also missed a call on a LeBron layup where Joakim Noah literally just smacks it off the rim. Like, the guy just swats it off, and it's the most blatant goaltend. And the ball could have possibly even rolled back in, but he just smacks it off, no call. And these little mishaps that the refs had, they were big. They were big, but obviously you don't ever want to be in a position where you're bagging on the refs or putting the game in the hands of the refs. And I feel like the Lakers played some of that in regards to the game against the Grizzlies, and you just don't want to get into that situation, because when you're looking at even the Lakers box score, LeBron James had 5 turnovers. And from what I remember from watching the game, he had 2 in the last 2 minutes, and he missed a free throw, a big 3-point play, three free throw that would have changed the whole aspect of the game. And so when you're thinking about this Laker team, I sit back and I think, I don't know what it is. It's tough to judge this Laker team. Everybody's going to say, oh, these guys are failures. They're going to kill this team if they don't make the playoffs. They're going to kill LeBron if he doesn't get this team to the playoffs. But you can only do so much with what was available to you, because LeBron, he was hurt for 18 games. I don't know what he's supposed to do. The team had a terrible record while he was out. He's played in 42 out of the 60 games, and at that point, I don't know what you're supposed to do if your guys end up losing that majority of those games and you're hurt, and that the team was in 4th place when you were healthy and drops to 8th, or no, not even drops to 8th, drops entirely out of the playoffs. That's just bad. And I think a lot of people aren't even just looking in terms of how many games the other guys played. I mean, let's take a look. Brandon Ingram, he's played in 48 or 49 games. So even he has missed 11 games. Kyle Kuzma has played in 55 games or 56. So he's missed 4 games. And you're looking at guys like Lonzo Ball. Lonzo has only played in 47 games. So at this point, Lonzo has missed 13 games. And Rondo played in 26 games. So Rondo's missed the majority of the games. He's missed 34 games. He's missed the majority of the season due to injury. And the injuries to this team have definitely played a role in how they've been able to be effective and get their rotations down, especially after trades and after the trade and rumors. And for me, it's just disappointing because you hear the reports that it feels as though LeBron just isn't as into the team as everybody would think. Like, he's not. And if you ask LeBron, because LeBron has been the definition of a girl you've been trying to get with for forever, and she just lacks the ability to commit and doesn't want to seem to commit to you ever, and just always kind of keeps you there on a string kind of thing. LeBron is the definition of that. And so when LeBron finally commits, he sees it as a big deal. And it's just, in LeBron's eyes, it's just, oh, I'm in a relationship with you. I'm in it for like a long period of time. And so that's his definition of commitment. And so like into a girl, when she actually starts dating you and kind of makes you her exclusive boyfriend, and nobody else is on her radar in terms of she plans on having a long-term relationship with you, to her that is commitment. And yeah, that is a form of commitment. But for you, you're like, hey, I expect you to go to the nines. I expect you to make the steps for us to go and get married kind of thing. And there's times where I don't feel like LeBron is ready to get to that point with the Lakers where he's like, okay, I'm ready to go and get married sort of thing. Like, he's not bought in terms of fully ingratiating himself as the team leader. Because even as simple as a lot of people might think it seems, oh, LeBron's the best player, LeBron's the leader, there's so many instances where you can go back and look at little situations on the court where Rondo is the guy stepping up into that role for the Lakers, and it's not LeBron James. You see different team activities sometimes. LeBron isn't the one that's spearheading it, it's Rondo. And I'm not going to say LeBron's not a leader in that locker room, of course not, it'd be foolish. But I'm saying, what I mean is that there's times where it seems like LeBron separates himself from the young guys or even the other players on the team, because LeBron's the main guy that has a vested interest in his role in that team, because LeBron's contract is the only one that we know is going to be there in the next 3 to 4 years. When it comes to guys like Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and so on, they all were just about to get traded. They were all this close. And when I say this close, I mean literally pinching my fingers, this close to being traded. And if you know a team is ready to sell out on you, are you going to give it your all for that team? If they were just ready to go ahead and that player wasn't even just like, no, I'm fine with the guys we got, I'm riding with those guys, and he makes a statement saying, man, playing with Anthony Davis would be awesome. Well, how else are you guys going to get Anthony Davis, LeBron? You can't get Anthony Davis unless you trade your young guys for him, right? And so the level of commitment seems to be more so to LeBron as opposed to the Lakers. And I'm not blaming him. He's trying to better his career, better his legacy, the whole nine. He's trying to become the undisputed GOAT, and he's trying to pass Michael Jordan for that title. But in the wake of all that, if you guys haven't seen my video, go check out my video, The Gift and the Curse That Is LeBron James. Because I talk about this very thing that's happening with the Lakers now. I talk about it in that video. I predict everything. This is before LeBron even signs with the Lakers. This is when free agency first started over the past summer. I made the video because LeBron does this with every team he goes to. It becomes a LeBron circus, and everything circles around LeBron. And it's about what can make LeBron win. And sometimes I think LeBron does get unfair blame, and he gets unfair credit for what is the result of what happens with stuff, because the whole Anthony Davis thing, the narrative was being pushed by the media all the whole time that he wanted to go to the Lakers. Maybe he did want to go to the Lakers, but it was as if, LeBron is forcing them to push him to the Lakers and all this stuff. And Anthony Davis is a grown-ass man. Nobody's forcing Anthony Davis to do anything to go to the Lakers, or nobody's forcing him to do anything. If Anthony Davis wanted to stay in the New Orleans Pelicans, he could stay in the New Orleans Pelicans to sign that max deal. Paul George, nobody forced his ass to stay in Oklahoma City. He's a grown-ass man. He did whatever he wanted to do for his family and did what's best for himself. So people trying to act like this guy is a kid, that LeBron can just control the whim of his finger, that Rich Paul can. No, you pay your agent. It's not the other way around. The minute you fire your agent, that's it. Your agent doesn't fire you unless you're just like if you're some kind of idiot that all of a sudden they just don't want to work with you anymore. But the player is in the power position when it comes to the agent. And everybody seems to think that LeBron runs Clutch Sports when Rich Paul is the one spearheading that whole organization. LeBron's a player. Don't get me wrong. LeBron has power and everything, and Rich Paul is his guy. They are best friends and everything like that. But we do need to give more credit to Rich Paul and his end of what he's accomplishing in the agent field, because he's one of the best agents in the league right now. That's why a guy like Draymond Green is interested in signing with Clutch Sports, because he sees everything that's going on for Clutch Sports clients like Ben Simmons, Anthony Davis, LeBron James. The list goes on. And so when I'm sitting here viewing the Lakers situation, it's tough for me to, in a lot of respects, to when I'm dishing out who deserves more culpability for what the state of affairs is with the Lakers right now. A lot of it, the whole trade situation was sloppy, but I don't blame the Lakers for that. I don't. If you're telling me that they're worried that they don't think that they'll get a top flight free agent this upcoming summer, and they think their best way to acquire one was Anthony Davis, who in my respect is a top 10 player in the league, easily top 5, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, me, for my personal top 5, I feel like winning is a big part of it. Anthony Davis hasn't done enough winning on my behalf to be a top 5 player, whereas guys like LeBron, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard, and so on have done that level of winning. Giannis Antetokounmpo, and so on have done that level of winning. And when I'm looking at it, I feel as though when a generational guy like Anthony Davis, who's 25 years old, who is one of the best two-way players in the game, and literally is at the peak of his powers and hasn't even hit his full prime yet, becomes available and wants to be moved, and your team is one of the places that he will sign an extension with long term, why wouldn't you do whatever you can to go get him? Now, look, I don't, and that's for me defending the Lakers end of it. But I personally wouldn't have gone and been willing. The Lakers were trading away their whole freaking team, their whole team. Like, it was like, I can't even make that analogy. It's grotesque. But it was sort of like if you leave the dog food open for your dog and your dog just goes ahead and tears apart the whole thing, and it was so unprompted. No, that was a terrible analogy. I don't know why I even said that one. Let's ignore that, guys. But it was just essentially unnecessary the way they offered every single young guy up in that group. And so now the guys, I mean, where you felt like you earlier in the year, you're like, oh, we get to play with LeBron. We're going to ride with LeBron. We're going to go with LeBron to the chip. We're going to go face the Warriors with LeBron. Now you realize LeBron wasn't in your corner as much as you might have thought he was. Because if LeBron comes out and says, hey man, these are my guys, I want to play the rest of the year with them, I want to ride it out with these guys, they're not being offered for trades. That's the kind of power a guy like LeBron has. When you hear stories about drama in locker rooms when it comes to contract years, when it comes to trade talks and all that stuff, a lot of times people look at the star player, because guess what? If a guy like Donovan McNabb steps up and says, give T.O. his money, T.O. is going to get his money. If a guy like Ben Roethlisberger steps up and says, pay Le'Veon Bell his money, Le'Veon Bell is going to get his money. But when that guy doesn't step up and defend or make a voice an opinion on that guy in order to try and help out his teammate, that's when you start having stuff happen in locker rooms, and that's when you start having drama happen and relationships start to fizzle. And so for this Lakers team, with them being now in 11th, they're behind the Kings, they're behind the Clippers, who are in the 7th spot, they're behind the Spurs, they're behind Minnesota, and they're tied with Minnesota actually. And when you're looking at this Lakers team, there's only 22 games left. Like, at this point, you can't keep losing these kind of games. Like, they're on pace to not make the playoffs. And I don't think people remember what it was like the last time LeBron James was not in the postseason. That's not something you want. Trust me, it is not something you want. And granted, you don't want him to go in there and get swept by the Warriors either. But let LeBron James miss the playoffs, guys. The whole Eastern Conference last year was interesting because LeBron James made the playoffs. In the Eastern Conference, he was dragging that Cleveland team. The whole narrative in the East revolved around LeBron, and that's why it was exciting. About, this Celtics team made a run and were able to face LeBron James in the 7-game series in the Eastern Conference Finals. Nobody's talking about the fact that they beat Giannis and them in the 7-game series. Nobody's talking about the fact that they beat Philly when Philly was the more talented, or at least had the 2 biggest name stars. Nobody was talking about that. Everybody's talking about when they went to the Eastern Conference Finals and faced LeBron. And so now if you go over to a postseason without LeBron James, oh man. Oh gosh, I don't know. That would be a rough watch. That would definitely be a rough watch. So the Lakers just have to turn it around, because at this point, I am not looking forward to not having any Lakers in the postseason. That would just be abominable. I would truly, especially when the Clippers have more incentive to lose. But Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Clippers, came out and said their goal is to win games. They are trying to win games at all costs, and I credit them. They play hard. They're a team that definitely doesn't have any quit in them, and they're just winning games off of playing hard. They're not going to roll over and quit, because the Clippers, they get to keep their pick if they're a lottery team. So they're incentivized to lose too. But for some reason, I guess the goal is to make the playoffs, because it would be like the first time they made the playoffs dating back to the Chris Paul years. And so Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. And so it's going to be interesting to see, because the games are winding down, and obviously there's less time for a lot of things to happen here. And you're definitely the Lakers on the clock, man. Lakers on the clock, and my stress levels, God, I can't handle it. I need the Lakers to make the playoffs. This is ridiculous. You can't tell me you get LeBron James, who's still a viable player, still a top 2 player in the league, and the Lakers are going to miss the playoffs. And I'm impressed with the young Lakers. You have guys like Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram putting up 20 plus per games in the last 3 games. Brandon Ingram literally went and scored 32 points in this game tonight. And the Lakers, 12 of 18 from the field, and then the Lakers still lose by 5. Like, something's got to change. The turnovers. You can't have 17 turnovers in a game. I feel like I'm revisiting this whole topic. They just have to lock in on defense, because most times when the Lakers are able to score 100 points or better, they're going to win most of those games. But their defense has been ass hat bad. And I mean dumpster fire bad, to the point they're just not trying. And that's not all right. That is not all right. And that comes down to coaching sometimes too, in which Luke Walton, you got to step up and get your guys to play defense. Because if they miss the playoffs, guess whose head's going to be the first one to roll? Luke Walton's. Not anybody else's. Luke Walton's is going to be the first head to roll. I can bet you that. All right, guys, this is going to wrap it up for the KBR Sports Podcast. Remember, you guys, to follow and subscribe to the KBR Sports Podcast on Rabble TV, Spreaker, YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud. That way, you'll be notified whenever a new KBR Sports episode is posted. Also, guys, make sure you go check out my website, BrendanAbbin.com, where you can find my blog and new episodes of the KBR Sports Podcast, and different ways to contact me on there as well, which is where my KBR Sports Twitter page is located on. You can see at KBR_sports, my own personal Twitter at AbbinBrendan. Guys, make sure you go check out my website. I appreciate the love, of course, and make sure you guys comment, like, and share the KBR Sports Podcast. It's a great way to show your support for the show. Obviously, I love it. I try to acknowledge every comment, every rating, every review that is posted about the KBR Sports Podcast. So, guys, keep showing your love. It doesn't go unnoticed. I always appreciate it every single time. And let me know what you guys think about the Lakers. Will they make the playoffs? Do you think LeBron is kind of being hypocritical of his comments? Do you think he should have made his comments public? What do you guys think about the current state of affairs in the Lakers? Because LeBron even comes out saying that at this point, if guys shouldn't be affected by distractions, essentially, that they're playing in the wrong city, and that if you're playing in this city and you're affected by distractions and noise about making the playoff push and stuff like that, you need to talk about that. You can't play here. And then, it was a question he was asked. Somebody asked him the question about if the playoff commotion is affecting the team. That was his answer. So give me all your thoughts and questions below, guys. I always want to hear your opinions. And guys, of course, until next time, I am out.